Hey guys, as you can tell from my extremely sad intro, there's no outdoor running going on in my world this week. It's minus 26 today. It's been like at least that all week long, so I've had to retreat to the treadmill, so it's part of the reason I haven't had a long form video out for just a little bit. Way too hard to record outside right now, so you're getting the treadmill today. And but what I wanted to do for this video was give you my top 5 lessons that I've learned over the years as a runner. I've been running for about 20 years, definitely not a professional, just an average guy that has gotten into marathoning and now ultra marathoning. I want to share some of those things I've learned. I'm still learning and still growing as a runner. Got a few miles left in me, but I thought I'd share those in there. I'll give you a bonus tip at the end too, but if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Ian. The channel, as you see, is FUDNF. As you guys know, that run, the symbol, or the DNF part, I should say, is did not finish. The FU part is pretty self-explanatory. Ever since I started entering into the ultra marathoning world, DNF has been a lot more of a topic of conversation for me as I take on the bigger, tougher races. But anyways, like I say, what I want to do is give you some of the lessons I've learned along the way if you're in running or getting into it. And I'll start with the first one, and that is pain is inevitable. When I first got into especially marathon distance, I used to think that success was executing this race perfectly to the point that you felt amazing from start to finish. And you know, that to me that meant like perfectly pacing the race, perfect nutrition strategy, perfect carb load, perfect aid station stops, perfect, course management, gear, all that stuff. Like, if you could put together this perfect playbook, I thought I could run this amazing marathon and have a runner's high from start to finish. And out of the many, many marathons I've ran, I've had that happen once. 99% of the races I've ran over the years, you eventually get this place where the pain sets in, you get into the hurt locker, your plan goes out the window, weather changes, things go sideways, and that's just a reality. And so the first lesson I learned, or one of the key lessons I learned, was to not be sort of looking for a painless, perfect race, but just to realize that pain is coming. It's gonna hit you eventually. Whether it's in a race or in training, you're pushing yourself really hard, it's coming. So if you've already got it in your head that you've got to deal with it, you're ready when it comes. And the more often I put myself into uncomfortable positions over the years, the more I think my brain has gotten stronger, because realistically, it's your brain that is gonna quit way before your body. So really having that mindset going in and during, the pain is unavoidable. Embrace it, adapt, adjust, and that's the way I think you can define a successful marathon or race or whatever, is if you embrace the pain and dealt with it. All right, lesson number 2, and something that most runners learn the hard way, something I've learned over the years, is that your lungs will always develop faster than your legs. And what I mean by that is, whenever you start running, or if you've taken a break and you're coming back or whatever, is that you will find that you build your cardio up way quicker than you build up your strength. And so what I see happen all the time is that people that want to get into running, for example, start going out, they start building up their mileage, start trying to go a little bit faster, pushing a little bit harder. And what you find is that for the first little while, that actually works. You start to see an immediate sort of improvement in your cardiovascular. You get that endurance building up. And then what happens almost every time for new runners or people trying to maybe grow or go to the next level is they get hurt. Ouch! Something comes up, and because you might build the cardio, you might build the lungs up, but your legs and your body are not ready. Running is such a repetitive, high stress sport that it takes some time for your muscles to build up that muscle stamina, that strength, that resistance. If you sort of tack on
the fact that a lot of people are not really efficient, maybe have bad stride, bad posture, those types of things, and then all of a sudden your lungs will take you for a 10K run, but your legs and your body are not ready. And so what happens, like I say, people get hurt, they try and come back, and then they just sort of get into this cycle where they just can't do it because they try to push too quickly, and you get sort of sucked into this. I see it happen so often. So my best lesson in that, my advice is start super slow, go way slow. When you get into running, think of it as a sport that you can do for life, not necessarily for that one race you signed up for on a whim. Think about running. If you really build the foundation, it's something that you can do for life. That's lesson number 2.
All right, lesson number 3, and that is that your brain will always quit before your body does. So how do you apply this to running? Well, first it is important to understand the brain's function in the body and how we live. Our brain's job is to protect us from harm. It's constantly assessing risk. It's always sort of looking to protect you and make sure that you're safe. There's this thing called the rule of 40, and that is this concept that your brain will start to protect you and shut you down when it believes that you're at 40% of your capacity. So when you get into a race or something difficult's happening where you're starting to push yourself, your brain will start to shut you down way before you're actually at your limit. It's where it perceives to be your limit. And the problem is the brain is not always that smart. It doesn't always realize what your limit is. It's using old information to establish what it believes is your limit. So as runners, what we have the capability of doing is continuing to push what our brain believes our limit is. There's a reason in marathons why people hit the wall at that 30K mark. It's because they get to that point where they're in sort of no man's land, where they're sort of at the tail end of where they feel that they're able to go. But most of these people finish because there's still much more left in the tank, but the brain starts to shut you down at that spot. And so how we get through that and how we develop that is by pushing through those limits, by pushing through those barriers. And you can do that in many ways. Obviously, some of this comes with time and just sort of, regular training, and, something I've learned over the years in many, many races of sort of understanding what I'm capable of. But it's also finding ways to push yourself beyond your limit day to day, or put yourself in uncomfortable positions in your training when you don't feel like going, when the weather sucks, when it's cold outside, when it's raining, when you're tired, whatever. Or when you just get into a workout and it starts to suck, you can start to practice overriding your brain when it starts to say, okay, maybe we should slow down. I just want to walk for a second. Whatever that brain story is starting to tell you, you can push past that. And so that's a huge lesson that I've learned over the years. So when you're training, when you're getting yourself ready, it's always sort of finding ways to put yourself in that spot where you can override your brain. And I think that's the other thing that comes with just experience and time, is just knowing that limit. But it also, I think, is the reason why so many of us who get into running start with a smaller race, and then all of a sudden you want to do a half marathon and then a marathon, and guys like me that get into ultramarathoning is because we're constantly looking for ways to push our limit, and it's partly because our brain gets sort of set on what it believes we're capable of. So continue to find ways in your training and racing and what you're setting up for and what you're doing to give yourself that sort of mindset of what that next level is, and that constantly recalibrates your brain to be able to be more successful and push yourself even further. All right, lesson number 4. One of the things I hear from people all the time is, I can't run, I've got bad knees. And I always say to them, it's not that you have bad knees, it's just their running form is terrible, and that's why you think you have bad knees. Sure, there are people that have issues and legitimate injuries or things that have happened in the past that prevent them from running, like a knee surgery or whatever. But for a lot of people, it's not that, it's that their form is not very effective, which translates into injuries. So people start run, they get building up the mileage, start building up their fitness, and then get hurt. And then they either quit or they try to do it again, and it happens again, and then they just give up on the sport entirely. And one of the problems, I think, is that you don't get to address the root cause of that. And for many people, it starts with our posture. It's something I've learned over the years. It's something I've worked on forever, is getting my stride more effective and more sound. Because I think what happens is we sit at desks all day long. We sit over our phones, we hunch over our phones. At night we're watching TV, we're slumped on the couch. And then you go out to run where you take that bad posture with you. And then if you're putting on lots of mileage and you can't expect to have
terrible posture everywhere else, and then all of a sudden when you lace your shoes up, you're gonna have great posture. So that's part of the issue, is that we bring out that bad posture to the run. And then of course, injury happens. If you drive around your town, I promise you, 8 out of 10 people you see running down the road are probably not very effective. Their form is not very great. I always say that running is the most natural human movement that most people are not naturally very good at. It's something you have to work at. And I think a lot of people, that doesn't feel right. They think, I know how to run. You just run, but there's so much more to it. So one of the lessons I've learned, how I've sort of addressed that over the years, has been really focusing in on my stride. I've done things like stride analysis, videos, working with coaches, really being focused on improving my stride. I know when I started running 20 years ago, I was a massive heel striker. I've worked my way up to being a mid-foot striker, being way more efficient, being better at my posture, my arms, shoulders. Oh, there's lots of components to a good running stride. I'm not gonna get into all those today. There's lots of great videos out there. I used to coach athletes and teach running stride. We would do video analysis, and I think for a lot of people, what they thought they were doing when they ran, what they actually were doing was like so different. So for me, I think the advice I would give here is that if you've never watched yourself run, that's a great place to start. Go out, take your camera, do it in front of do it on the treadmill, go outside, put your camera down, record yourself running from a few different angles, and you may or may not be surprised at how good or bad you are in the stride. So to me, that's a huge lesson. Check your stride, check your form, watch your posture. Are you slumping right now while you're watching this piece of the video? Check yourself. That's lesson number 4. All right, tip number 5, run your own race. I think this is something for so many of us that we've had to learn the hard way, and even if you're a veteran runner, you've probably learned this more than once, and I'm guilty for sure on that one, and that is getting sucked into somebody else's race. This happens all the time in races. When you get to the line, you get excited, you get amped up, you're nervous, you go out, you kind of get caught up in the crowd, you're really excited, and you kind of get sucked into a faster pace, and you're feeling really good. And so what happens almost every single time is you end up paying for that later on when you realize you've pushed your pace too hard, and it comes up and catches you later on. And not only in racing, I think this happens in our training. When we watch other people, we observe sort of what our friends and people we follow on Strava are doing, or even when you're uploading your own workouts, you have this pressure to make sure your workout was really good and your pace was really strong. And I see so many people also guilty of sort of pushing beyond the intention of the workout, your fitness level, just to kind of, because you've got this pressure on you, or this perceived pressure on you. So I think the most important tip here, and reason why I saved this one to the end, was it's so important to run your own race, train at your own level, stay focused, stay disciplined on what you're trying to accomplish. Every workout, every race, you should have a goal in mind, an intended outcome that you want to get. And if you stray from that, a lot of times you won't get the maximum benefit. So tip number 5, run your own race. And as I close out this, I just wanted to show behind you, you can see on my screen behind, is the FUDNF.com website. I recently launched a bit of a website with some clothing, some merch. I'm currently working on designing a ultramarathon running shirt. The Run Rabbit shirts are something I've used in the past. Really hard to get, super expensive, but they're an amazing button-up shirt. If you know, you know. And I'm working on designing my own, so it's gonna be on the website pretty soon here, but in the meantime, I've got some wicked hats, shirts, gear. Check it out, FUDNF.com. I would appreciate it if you did that. I also wanna say thank you for sticking through this video. I know it's kind of different than my normal video because it's been so cold. I've been stuck indoors for the last few weeks, so all this video is kind of just me walking around talking and sort of indoors. I promise you the weather's turning around here soon, so I'll be back outside. Some more running videos coming up here very soon. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. I would appreciate that. Like, send a comment. I answer every single one. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys next time. Take it easy.